Okay, we are live. So today we are getting to know Google Classroom. Google Drive was last session. Okay, my name is Mark Rounds. I'm a teacher in San Diego. I teach high school English, building and construction, video game creation, basically anything needs to be taught. I teach it except for math. Where I teach is a small school downtown San Diego that caters to our kids impacted by homelessness. So awesome, fun work, and so that's my day job. I also do a lot of other stuff, but this is everything that I talk to you about will be kind of from the trenches. This is how I use it. None of it theoretical. Really just kind of like real brass tack stuff. Working with real kids with 45% of our students are English learners. We are one-to-one, so we have Chromebooks. So that is, we were just having a discussion about that. That is, one of the caveats here for using Google Classroom is you need your students to be connected, okay? It's very, very challenging to really make Google Classroom work well for you if you are not, you don't have connection. There are some chairs in the classroom right over here. If you guys can just pull them in if you'd rather not sit on the floor, but you're more than welcome to sit on the floor. As far as the recording that's happening right now, the link down here at the bottom, the youtube.com/mrounds5, that's where you can find it when and if you need it. So that is that. Okay, so Google Classroom. Just a quick pulse on the room, and this is now allowing you to use your voice instead of your clicking finger. Give me some thoughts. What do you know about Google Classroom? You just shout it out. What do you know? Okay, nothing is good. That's good. So see this first page? It's welcome to Classroom. How about those of you that think you know something or have heard something?
I've heard that it's good to use in the classroom.
Okay, I will agree with that. Any other thoughts or things that you've heard? Has anyone used it in their classroom?
A little bit.
A little bit? Dabbled?
I tried to start it at the end of this year.
Okay. Right. Right. Yeah, starting new initiatives. And if it is one of your thoughts and goals to start backing away from copy machines and to try to eliminate some of the reams and reams of paper in your classroom, I've used a lot of different tools that that can facilitate what we call a paperless environment. None of them have done it as well or as clean or as simple as Google Classroom. The one thing that Google for Education did well with Google Classroom is they made it very easy for teachers to use. And that's huge. Okay, I've talked a lot today in my first two sessions about productivity as a teacher and eliminating wasted seconds. And Google Classroom is a great tool in that capacity, in that it's all lean meat, no marbly fat. I mean, that's bad for steak, but good for Google Classroom, right? And so I want to encourage you that even though we're kind of going to go through a lot of stuff here, that it is a fantastic option if what you want to do is start moving yourself towards using less and less paper and worrying whether kids have pencils and all that. And if you have, if you're in a one-to-one Chromebook classroom, it just really couldn't work any better. Okay. As far as discussions around what if we're, one computer for every 2 students, one computer for every 3 students. Those are management challenges, but the facilitation and use of Google Classroom, I can't ring its praises out enough. It's just really a fantastic tool. So that being said, do all of you have Google Apps for Education accounts with your school Google account? Okay, if you do, you can play along. If you don't, you can't. Sorry. So let me make sure that yes, I am in this environment. Okay, so what I want you to do, are you signed in under your, if you do have a Google Apps for Education account, are you signed in under your apps domain? Okay, if you are not, if you're signed in under your personal Gmail account, you can go up in your Chrome, if you're in Chrome, you can go up to People and add a person and then sign in under that account. And if it gets to a point where it's kind of hard to follow along because you're clicking along, then we'll nip that and we'll just kind of go to a you watch, I talk, you ask, I answer kind of model. Ultimately, you are going to, my page looks differently because I've been in here before, but the first time you go to Google Classroom, and the address is classroom.google.com, you are going to be greeted with a page that looks something like this, hopefully a lot like this. And you will have to scroll down that page a little bit and select I am a teacher. And then you will be offered the option to create your first class. That plus sign, universal symbol for create a new one. Okay, well, after you click that, I mean, so just as you watch, either as you follow along on your laptops or you're just following along on the screens here, you'll see that the user interface. If you're familiar with the acronym GUI, graphic user interface, right? This is the interface of Google Classroom, and everything is just super clean and big and easy, and it really is a good deal. So when you create a class, it's just put in the name, what term is, if you want to put in a term, you can do that, and then you create that class. So I'm going to jump into my own, and I'm going to click that plus sign, and well, it gives you the option to join a class or create a class. We're creating one, and again, this will be my test class. Could be for section. You could, I put my trimester in there, or doesn't need to be anything in there. Okay, when you create that class, it will give you kind of the default look. What's that? Well, the cool thing is that you can always select your theme and you can change it up and play around with it. So right when you create that class, it literally creates a class for you, and it gives you the looks for what that is. And so you get the classroom here on. So this is your classroom environment. But the other thing that happens when that classroom is created is that in your Google Drive, there will be a folder created named Classroom. And in that Classroom folder, there will be your class. So it automatically creates a folder inside your Google Drive associated with that class. Okay? You don't have to do any of that work. Back before Google Classroom, if you wanted to have an environment in Google Drive where kids were turning things into you in Google Drive, you would have to have them, share that document with you. You would have to build the folders. You would have to create the hierarchy. All that stuff was very labor intensive on the front end. With Google Classroom, it is not. It just does it all behind the scenes. Magic. It's real. Okay? So I have now a folder in my drive where every piece of work that students turn in will go to automatically. So when I go to look for student work, I know exactly where to look for it. Okay, which makes it awesome. Okay, so like I said, folder automatically created in Google Drive, and every assignment that you post will automatically be filed inside that folder. So
They have to be tied into that. They're obviously tied into that folder.
they are. So let me show you what that looks like. So here's an English 10 class, and each one of these folders in my English 10 class is an assignment that I assigned. So, and the work that's in there is the work that the students have done and turned in through Google Classroom. Now, this document is their document that's being shared to this folder. Does that make sense?
And does everyone see that, or
just me?
Shared or just you? Okay.
They see theirs, you see everybody's. Okay? And so for every single assignment, no, not that one. Doesn't have anything in it. For every single assignment that you assign, the students do work, they turn it in Google Classroom, and it goes right, it populates this folder. The coolest thing about this folder is that right when they start, it populates this folder. So as a teacher, I can go into this folder while they're working on it and watch them working on it in real time. So if I double click on Adrian's and see that he's not working, I'm like, dude, you're over there on a Chromebook. You've been on it for 20 minutes. I see zero work. You're not working on this. What's going on? Get off of YouTube, right? So that it allows me that opportunity, right? So instead, we can, as teachers, walk the aisles, see that, or you can be on a computer, and even better, you can have it. I mean, if this is the comfort level of you and your kids in your classroom, you can have it right up on the screen, and you can see, and they can see, who's working, who's not. It's, again, that just really depends on your kids and all that good stuff. So I hope that you're getting a sense right now, and the thing that, for me, that makes Google Classroom worth the money that we pay for it, it's free, it's all, for me, as a teacher, all about workflow, all about document management. In the 2 years I've been using Google Classroom, I have not lost work from one student. Better yet, I haven't had a student that didn't turn and come up to me and said, I did turn it and you must have lost it. I haven't had that. Okay? So as far as productivity, workflow, document management is awesome. It's the best. Okay? And hopefully you're starting to get that flavor without me even having to tell you that. You're sensing that. Okay, so that's all good, behind the scenes stuff. When you create a classroom, this is what Google is doing instantly behind the scenes, creating those folders, creating this hierarchy that you never have to worry about. You just have to know where it is.
How did you make the actual assignment? I
will show you that. We'll get into that. Okay, so there are 3 sections in your Google Classroom, and we're going to cover those 3 sections. We're going to kind of go in reverse order here, because just mainly because it's the stream is the most important part, and I want to hit that last. So first, we're going to start with the About section. The About section of your Google Classroom has some essential items in it. The one thing it has that is awesome is the Google Drive folder, and that's a link. So if you click on that, it will take you right to your Google Drive, right to that folder. Okay, so in the About section, you will be able to see specifically where that folder is. You never have to, if for whatever reason you forget that it's in your Google Drive, you can go into your classroom and you can click on the Google Drive folder and it will open that folder up for you. Okay, so that's awesome. You can also manage your classroom calendar. I don't really use the classroom calendar feature, but every assignment that you assign will populate the calendar. So you could do that if you want to be. That's something that I haven't done yet. I tend to be more open-ended with my assignments, so I don't necessarily have due dates a lot of the times. But you can, if you are a Google Calendar person, you can view it in Classroom, or you can open it in your Google Calendar. So it's really intermeshed into other Google tools. And we're not going to go too deeply into Calendar. This is a place you can do it. The other cool thing about your About page is that it can be a repository for documents that students will need. So if there are certain graphic organizers that you have students using, that they will, not just for specific assignments, but for general, you can put them on this page. You have a class newsletter, you can put it on this page. Any kind of documents that they will access time and time and time, or ones that you want them to access, regardless of whether it's in an assignment or not, you can use it as a resource page. Not only for documents, but for links. So if there's any links that students are going to be visiting often in your class, you can put links on this page as well. And it kind of works just like a feed, like a Facebook feed or something like that. If I add material, and in this case I add a link, and in this case it's this Hacking Google Drive link because I want students to be able to access that, I will just paste in that, add it, and post it. Oh, it's a Drive file, so it's not going to do that, is it? Okay. Let's say we're going to Scratch, which is a coding environment. And I want them to always have the link for Scratch. So there it is. So it's like you can just populate this with whatever you want. It become kind of the go-to spot in Google Classroom for students to be able to see.
Add materials to do that?
Yeah, just this. Yeah, just that line there that says Add Materials. You click it, and you can, and if you start using Google Classroom, you become familiar with these 4 icons. The paperclip is to attach or upload a file. So if you have a PDF or really any kind of file, could be an MP3 file, any kind of file you want students to have access to. This is anything from your Google Drive. This is a YouTube video, and this is a link to a web page. Okay, that's our About section. It's pretty simple. Like I said, it's like there's not much to this, but there's a lot of power in its simplicity. Oh, the one other thing you can do on this page is you can invite a teacher. So if you want to co-teach through Google Classroom, you can invite a teacher. Knowing that invited teachers can't delete stuff, can't take away stuff, basically. They can add stuff. They can add assignments, add announcements, those kinds of things, but they can't delete or take stuff away. That is the privilege of the teacher that created the class to begin with. So that's what you can do in the About section. Students that go to the About section will have access to your email here, so they can email you to your GAFE account, your Google Apps account. Any questions about anything that I've talked about so far in the About page? Okay. I'm purposely going kind of slow here. If I'm going too slow, let me know. Okay, the student section is where we are next. And under the student tab, Okay, you're not going to see any in here now. Let me go to a different class. The last trimester I taught Lit Lab classes, so I had very few students. But you'll see a listing of your students here. This is the page where you can access the student permissions. So you have 3 different options for your students. Students can post and comment. Students can only comment, and only teacher can post or comment. Those are the permissions that exist in the stream. So if you think of the stream like a Facebook feed, right? You are setting levels of permission for how students can interact with the material in that feed. Okay? If you allow students to post and comment, then a student can post something out of the gate. Like they can say, you know, hey, what's up, everybody, and post it. You know what I mean? If you have it set for them to only comment, then only you as the teacher or co-teacher can post, but students can comment to that post. Okay.
A discussion board.
Could be, exactly. A lot of times I'll use it as an exit ticket. You know, like give them, you know, I want 2 things that you learned today, or you know, what did you learn if you have them collaborating? What did you learn about yourself as a collaborator today? They answer that question, and that's their exit ticket. You know what I mean? So that's allowing you to post questions and announcements and assignments, but they can only comment to the things that you post. And then you have the one, the most restrictive one, the only you can post and comment, which kind of defeats the purpose of it a little bit, but it just all depends on how you're using it and your comfort level, and you know, really what it looks like when you're using it. We'll be able to reflect more on that in a little bit. There is a class code, so that when students first go to Google Classroom, they click on the plus button and it says join a class, because they go in as students. And when they join a class, it will ask them for a code. Okay, that's one way to get students into your class. Just put the code up on the board, tell them to go to classroom.google.com, go down, select student, click the plus button, put in this code. That's one way to do it. Go ahead.
Do they like send an email or something like that with the code, or do you have to give them the code?
You, in this case, in this option, when you have them joining the class by using the code, I have it up like literally written on the board or on like a Google slide that they can all see. The other way to do it is to invite students, and then it'll just kind of open up your domain. You choose students to invite. When you invite them, it sends them an email, and they can then join that way. Okay, and if the students are in your domain, they should appear in that listing. For me, you know, just as the practicality of it all, that option always seems to not work well. Kids don't get the email, something comes up, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. The code always works. Okay, the code just works every time. So that's the way I always do it.
Less work too.
Well, you know, it's like, I didn't get the email. Can you resend it? And so, no, just you put in the code. You're good. Okay, and so that's about as simple as this gets, except for the fact that I can email students individually from the Students tab, right? So the little envelope here on the side, the international symbol for email right now, right? I click on that, it opens up a compose in my like a new message window in my Gmail, and I can send them a direct message from there. The other thing is, if I want to email all of them, I can check them all and email them. And this is a new feature, you can mute students. I guess if they're being, you know, if they're cutting up in your Google Classroom, you can mute them. I haven't used that yet. I know it's a pretty new feature though. Last couple of months. That's the thing with Google products, they will just upgrade them, and you'll all of a sudden be like, "Whoa, what's that?" You know, it just happens. So that was one of them. All right, so now we're gonna put on our hip boots, and we're gonna wade out into the stream. Okay, the stream is where all the magic happens in Google Classroom. This is where you can start like the whole list here. Start discussions, provide links, ask questions, post exit tickets, post assignments, share rubrics, post announcements, upload videos. This is where your students and you will be interacting 99% of the time. Okay, so there is a lot of stuff going on in the stream. And so just to share, the thing you'll be doing most in Google Classroom is adding assignments. Okay, and so again, we start looking into the interface here, and I just created a little sample classroom for us here. If you're in here for the first time, you can take the tour. It'll take you spot by spot, and they do a pretty good job of taking you on that tour. It's kind of what I'm doing now, so I don't want Google to steal my thunder. Down in the bottom right corner of your screen, you will see a circle with a plus sign. And you don't have to click on it, you just roll over it, and it gives you the options of what you're able to do in the stream as a teacher. I can reuse a post, which means I'm taking it from somewhere else and I'm reusing it. I can create a question, I can create an assignment, or I can create an announcement. Again, I mean, it's just super simple. There's not, I don't need 40 options. 4 is good, right? And so the biggest and best thing you're going to be doing in here is creating assignments. Okay, I want to look at the other two first, creating an announcement and creating a question first. Okay, an announcement is just that, it's an announcement. So I could say something like, newsletter is out. And then I will go into my Google Drive and I will grab whatever, the newsletter, and I will post it. And so in that way, right, I can just create this quick announcement that just lets students know that the newsletter's out and you click here to get it. And kids can comment on that. Ooh, I can't believe that I was on page 2 and I'm picking my nose, or whatever it is, right? So, and my theory always is that if it's not vulgar, it all goes to creating classroom community. And so you want kids to be able to be themselves without being vulgar. So it's all that. Then we start teaching them about how we relate to each other in a private environment like Instagram or Snapchat. How we relate to each other in a more corporal environment like public environment like this. Like in our district, we have this thing called Yammer. And Yammer is like the Microsoft version of work Facebook. It's just weird. I don't know. Whatever. But there's a certain way that you conduct yourself in that environment. I'm not going to post pictures of the fantastic beer I drank last night there, right? Where I'll do that on my Instagram, but I'm just not going to do that in my, on Yammer. I'm going to say, like, I don't do anything on Yammer, but people just talk about things that are going on at work. Blood drive today, blah, 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 all that stuff. So this being their work environment, you are going to post stuff on here that is, it allows you to be you, but this is a work environment. So, you make these rules about posting. You have these norms that, you discuss and agree to before you jump in, because, you don't want to be, this is my view is you don't want to go to the nuclear option of saying no comments, right? Because then you're losing out on something. In any case, so announcements, you can make, you can make those. You can say, morning video. If you want to start off every morning with a video or whatever, YouTube video, you can link videos to it, all that stuff. You can make announcements. You can create questions. And they've got this new feature now. So this is the question. This would be like an exit ticket. That's what I use for my exit tickets. I would be, what is the most important thing you learned today? Okay? How to spell important. So the one default is short answer. The other one is multiple choice. So they started doing polling here. So you can actually just give quick multiple choice questions, so you can, they're different. Like, did you feel that that today's lesson was successful? And they can, without having to have them explicate on that, you can have them just choose. It was awesome, meh, and boo, and you can set the switch for them to be able to see a summary of that. So they can see, what did other people think? So you can add a question. And then the big one is creating an assignment. Okay, and even then, you can see that the interface here is super easy to use. What's the title of the assignment? What are the instructions? When is it due? And then what do you need to attach to it? Okay, so if I give our assignment a title, most of the time, most times my instructions are read the attached doc, because I will create some sort of a doc template for them to branch from, because I don't want to write a whole bunch here. All right, so I'll give them a document to roll with. And so you can choose, your date, or you can choose no due date by just clicking that X. So either a date, so if it's due, next Monday at 11:59 p.m., you can do that. Or by clicking that X, you can just say no due date.
If you put a time on there, can they not put anything on afterwards?
They can, but it will be marked as late. Yeah. Yeah. At no point does it restrict them from. Yeah. It doesn't. There's no like. You don't get to turn it in. It will. There will be a big red with capital letters late on there. Yeah. It will do that. And the other cool thing before we get into dropping in resources is that if you have more than one class, you can hit that drop menu and you can assign it to multiple classes. Okay, so you only need to create the assignment once for multiple classes. Okay, so let's talk about attaching resources to the individual assignments. You can always attach something. So if you have a PDF that you want them to read, I'll hit the paperclip. I don't know if I have a PDF somewhere. Let me see. Or let's just say a picture. You want them to respond in some way, shape, or form to a picture. So you can upload an image. So, and they have the option of students can view it, students can edit it, and then make a copy. And we're going to talk more about that when we get into in our next option, attaching a Google Doc. How you can set it so that students will interact in different ways with documents that you attach. So the beauty of this is how it interacts with your Google Drive. Okay, and so we've looked at the Google Drive folder, right, that it creates. So I'm going to go to my drive. I'm going to go to classroom. I'm going to go to, let's say, English 12. Oh, where'd you go? This one. Okay. And I'm going to, let's say, let me look at this. What does this one say? Okay, cool. So what I find myself doing is creating now templates. And this is a good example of a template that I will use and attach. So let me find that one, critical thinking. Okay, so this is a template. And so in this case, this is when I would say, look at the doc, follow the instructions on the doc. And so I will create a template that has a full prompt here, and then give them a space to write. Okay? So instead of saying, here's this big blank sheet, write this, I will create a template. And so this is this is a kind of a wide open template. Other types of templates that I will use and create are a little more chunked up. So in this case, I will write questions and create basically one by one. Each of these boxes is a one by one table. So if I bring in, I just create a one by one table and I'll type in answer one and make it a box, so that all of their stuff looks very uniform, So I'll create the template. It's almost worksheetish, which I'm getting more and more away from, but I kind of look at it more as kind of like a graphic organizer and organize their thoughts, right? But you can create these templates. And I found that this is really a best practice. For me, this works the best, okay? So I'll get in there and I will pop in that template. That was weird. Okay, I will add that template, and so now this is super important. Okay, so I have options now as far as what I can do with this. In this case, it's a template. Okay, I can set it for students can view file. If I leave it on that setting, all the students will be able to do is look at it. They cannot interact with it in any way. Then we have students can edit file. This is the danger zone right here. The students can edit file, because what this does is it shares one file with all of your students. Okay? And that means they can all edit the same document, which is great if that's what you want them to do. There's a lot of settings in which you want students to all be working on the same document. If you're having working on each of them making a slide for a slide deck, or if you make a 1 by 30 table and they each fill in an answer in each of the things, so you can look at it as a group, right? There's situations where you would do that, but that's the biggest mistake that is made in Google Classroom, is when you make a template and then you choose students can edit file, because then it's just one file. This is the awesome one right here. Make a copy for each student. When I choose that as my option, then what will happen is when the students open the assignment, they will have their very own document sitting there. It will be titled Critical Thinking, What's Next, Mark Rounds. It will have their name on it. They open it up and that's their file. And that's the file that populates your folder back in your Google Drive, right? It's in their drive, it's in your drive, it's shared. You can see them working on it. It's extremely uniform. So we're back to workflow now, and we make a copy for each student, and they're all working from the same beginning point. Yes?
So if you do something like that, will it immediately put, say you've got 20 kids, it'll put 20 copies of the same document in the folder on your Google
Only
Drive
when they open it, yeah.
Or once the student opens it, it'll create that.
Right in your folder,
okay.
Instantly. And so if I'm back here, and I'm looking at their assignments from the jump, I can see them working. You know what I mean? And again, so now what we're talking about is, again, this kind of management of your classroom, right? And if you were at my Google Drive session last time around, I showed you the cool secret of when you're in Google Drive. If you right-click on a document in Google Drive, you can select this awesome tool called Preview. This is the best for working with Google Classroom. It'll give you this preview version, and then I can just arrow my way through these things as students are doing them. So I can arrow back and forth. I can say, you haven't started, what's going on? You haven't started yet, look at this. They're already done, and what's going on? You know what I mean? So you could really kind of take a look at now workflow and see which students are working, which students aren't.
So you can show that up there, and the kids can't necessarily see, oh, well, they've only done one thing.
If you have your projector on, they can see it. If you're just looking at it on your computer, or even on your if you're walking around, even on an iPad, you know, or even on like an Android phone or whatever, you can access that and be looking through it, right? I mean, you have access, wherever you have access to your Google Drive, which is on basically any device, you have access to students as they're working. So you can be up, moving around, and still looking at what they're, you know what I mean? So it's you know, one of those tricks that students like to do is turn down like to dim their screens so you can barely see what they're doing, right? And so when I know I got you right here, buddy. You're not even working on this. What's going on, right? So yeah, it's so that right click on a document and then preview is awesome. I can see their name right up here. I know that when I go through the assignments, right, I can see their names as they're working, right? And so I know who's working on what, right? And so it's super, super useful as far as workflow and getting and making sure that everyone's on point. Yes.
So can you mark on their document if you actually open it?
If you actually open it, yes. If you're in preview mode, no. So if like, let's say that I'm looking at this and a student, let's say a student has a question, sit in the back, you know, can you take a look at my Jack in the Box one and let me know if I did it the right way? And then, yeah, I would go to them, I would open it up, I would look at it, and I would say, you know what, this section right here, that's a little weird. I'm having so much trouble spelling today. Okay? That's a little weird. And then she could say, well, I like it, it's resolved. You know what I mean? So you can interact also with students from across the room. You know what I mean? Instead of getting in there and like, okay, nudge aside, let me see this, right? You're now interacting with students as they're writing in real time, collaborating over a document, right? And so again, you're talking about workflow. And because your classroom is what it is, and you have so many students and so many desks, and you can't make it, it's very challenging to get around. It'd be very hard for me to go in and to that right? You can start sharing what you're working on here together over the air, which is thebomb.com. Okay, so that making a copy for each student is, it really is, if you start using this, it is going to be your best friend. Okay, and you can see here on I've kind of gotten away from my slides here, and we're just kind of looking at it real time. But yeah, when the middle one, students can edit file, that is the danger zone. You're going to find yourself like, ugh, okay, I got to go back and restore this to its original version. Yeah, but the making a copy is the best option for creating your own templates, creating your own graphic organizers, having students interact with those on their own, and then turn them in. And so what you will get is, I mean, you will get now in your stream, you will get just like these assignment details in real time. You'll be able to see how many students have turned it in, how many students have left to go. If it's a super quick assignment, you can take a look at it there. If it, but you'll be able to see that. And then when you click on it on the done, you'll be able to then drill in. So here's another way to look at the document. If you don't necessarily, if you're not going into your Google Drive folder, you can access them all from inside of Google Classroom. So this is the same view of all the same documents that you would have in that folder, but now they're here in Google Classroom. So it's it's looking at the same thing in two different places.
When students are working on something, do they click something to indicate that they are finished with it?
Yeah, they turn it in. There's a turn. They have a turn in button. Yeah, they go back to the assignment that they opened up. And that open has turned into turn in. They click it and it's in. I'm glad you asked that question. I so have an answer to that question. So I take a look at that assignment. Let's say they click done. So what we see here is that they're done, but they're not really done. They haven't even started, but they click done. And when the student turns it in and it's done, they cannot edit it. Okay, it is done. Because that is, so I'm not super stringent on due dates and due times and all that stuff. That's just my style as a teacher. But what students were doing when Google Classroom first came out was they were turning something in before 11:59 or before the due date, and then knowing the teacher wasn't going to get to grading it for at least the rest of that night or the rest of that day, they would just continue working on their document after turning it in, right? So I turned it in, but it's not really done. I turned it in, and I'm still working on it. So that's what they've done in Google Classroom to counteract that. Is when you turn it in, it is non-editable by the students, okay? The only way that a student can get it back to now edit it, or if a kid like turns it in right away and didn't do anything, we have this thing called a return. We check a little box next to their name, and then we click return, and we just return that assignment right to them. Super, super quick and easy. So yeah, so if I'm in my drive, classroom, and I go to an assignment, so I would just click on boom, boom, and then return it to them. And you can make a comment, a little private comment to the kid, like, you know, quit acting a fool, and return it to them, right? Boom. So once it's returned to the kid, then they can edit it again. Yeah. And it'll tell you right here, returned, done late, and then just late, right? So you get that. Okay, so when Google Classroom first came out, one of the big criticisms of it from teachers was that it didn't have a grade book. And the idea is that it was never meant to be this kind of like a LMS. It was really designed for workflow, for just kind of making sense of the way that you handle documents in the classroom and all that. And you know, you grade how you grade. But ultimately, what they settled on was not an inherent grade book, but a spreadsheet that you can adapt. So I've got this little animated GIF here. You could always grade in there. You could always, you know, give kids a grade. But the one thing they added to this was the ability to, and you'll see it here. We're doing it by last name. We're giving it a number of points. Giving this, and then over here we're saying copy all grades to Google Sheets, and then it will generate for you a spreadsheet that is a grade book. And then every time that you send those to Sheets, it'll populate that same grade book. If you use an online grade book that takes CSV files, you know, exportable data, you can export it as a CSV file and then import it into your grading program. You know, my workflow has always been with this, because we have an LMS called Haiku. It's like Blackboard or any other LMS, but we have to do all of our grading in there because it's shared with parents. It's our protocol in our district. So I won't grade anything in Google Classroom. I use it purely for workflow, not for grading. So I will go into my folder like I showed you earlier, and I will scroll through those. Not that way, silly. I will scroll through them, and I will grade them as I scroll through them, and then I will just do that in Haiku. So it's kind of a process of looking at it and grading it. It's kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's still. I mean, I'd rather have this than a stack of papers. Any day, every day. We're done here at 2:30. Is that right? Okay. So yeah, so that option of having a grade book in Google Sheets is there, and that's something that I may just give a shot to. But you know, so this is kind of the look here of, you know, you copy them to Sheets, and then Sheets creates for you. And I just did this. I actually just did this the other day when I was updating this. Is that, you know, it actually does this for you. It creates, you know, the dates. It autofills all that stuff for you, which is handy. Okay, we talked about returning assignments. Okay, and it re-grants them editing rights. And then again, you can, if you want to send batched emails to students, this return area is where you do that. You can select as many students as you want. And if you select them all, great. If you select a few of them, great. You click that envelope and it will generate an email that in which all of the students that you check will be in the recipients field. So it'll send one email to as many kids as you put a check next to. So again, we're talking about workflow. I need to email these students and let them know you didn't get it done. This is being returned to you. This is what you need to relook over, reassess the assignment, figure out a different way. If you need to come see me and talk about it, come see me and talk about it. It's for like general stuff. So just finishing up with some new features that just came out. This idea, this is not me. I will probably never do this because this is just not how I work. I'm very last minute. I've just always got like 9 irons in the fire, and the one that's getting the most attention is the one that's happening next, right? So, but for those of you that are planners and schedulers, you can actually create all of your assignments and schedule when they're released, right? So you can create the assignment, and then by clicking next to assign, there's a little drop arrow. You can select the date and time that assignment is released. So creating things in advance and releasing them is pretty cool. That happened in May. They did that. That's great. No, that's
a great reason.
You know what? It right now is it. I mean, that never bothers me. It's the world. It's the world in which we live. We're connected, right? So we talked about polls and being able to take polls, right? You can see here what students choose on the fly. This is just a little animated GIF of those multiple choice questions. So when you check plus, create a question, make it multiple choice. Ask the question, and then you can see in real time what's been going on. So we have 5 minutes. Okay. So if you were at my Google Chrome session earlier, we talked a little bit about Chrome extensions. Okay, and a lot of us in the room thought extensions were just for hair. Well, they're not. Okay, they are Google Chrome extensions. If you want to learn more about extensions, you just Google Chrome extensions. You can just Google it, right? But the great Google Chrome extension now is share to classroom. Okay, and so let's say that I am on a website and I want to share this to Google Classroom, right? I click on the extension and look what happens. Pretty cool. Okay, which class do you want to send it to? That one. Do you want to push it to students? Do you want to create an assignment? Do you want to ask a question? Do you want to make an announcement? I want to make an announcement. I'm going to say, today, work on your scratch games, exclamation point, and post it. And I've just made that announcement to Google Classroom without having to go to Google Classroom. I did it all from the web page I was on. Super cool. Okay, and again, we're talking about productivity, workflow, shaving seconds of work off your day. You shave enough seconds, then you're shaving minutes. Shave enough minutes, then you're talking hours. Just think of all that time you're going to have. Pina coladas by the poolside. Okay, so that share to classroom extension. Okay, I don't have enough time to show you how to dive in and get it, but trust me, you Google it and it's right there. Oh, I do have a little step-by-step here. Make sure it's the extension. So you'll see right here, when you go to the Chrome Web Store, you'll see extensions, and it's this Share to Classroom extension. You're going to see a lot of other stuff. The only way to know that it's a real Google product is that it's from Google. I just showed you all that. Okay, the second to last slide is some resources. Okay, the first two are right from Google Help, the Google Classroom Help Center, which is very good resource, very easy to use, very succinct. Like Google Classroom itself, it's just the simplicity is awesome. What's new in Google Classroom is basically an updated list of things that they've added, the newest things on top. And there's a woman lives in California named Alice Keeler. She's like the Google Classroom guru, or she's got a blog site that has tons of posts about Classroom. Interestingly, she's got a couple books out, like 50 things you can do with Google Classroom. Like, it's a pretty simple tool. I don't know if I think she's got 2 of them now, so that's 100 things. And then there's also, I've embedded a video here from a guy named Kevin Brookhauser, it's a deep dive into Google Classroom. It's like a 12 or 17-minute video that is really good. Okay, so there's a couple of resources here. Just know that anytime you have any questions about Google Classroom, all you need to do is Google it. There's tons of stuff out there. All right, so we finished up with some obligatory memes. We have Maury Povich. I submitted my homework on time. Google Classroom determined that was a lie. All right. Before you ask what assignments you have missing, go check the Google Classroom. This is us as a teacher. If I use Google Classroom, I'll be able to do more in my actual classroom. Curse you. I can't say I left my work on my home computer. Okay. Good news. There's a Google Classroom app for iOS and Android. You can do your homework anywhere. And there you are when you're sick but still posting on Google Classroom. Right? You're there as a teacher, a student. You got no excuse not to turn your stuff in on time. Any questions before we break? Okay, so I'm going to stop our hangout.